Welcome back to the Age of Political Review. Today's topic, Thailand, particularly the Bumjai Thai party leader, Prime Minister Anutin, have initiated defamation proceedings against iLaw, particularly against Yingship Achanan, who is the executive director. So this is a very complicated case, but it began when iLaw presented evidence that Anutin and senior party officials, 8 of them, orchestrated a systematic vote buying and proxy slate scheme during the 2024 Senate elections, and that was to secure a block of conservative blue senators. Now, Bumjai claims that the criminal litigation is necessary to protect individual reputations from politically motivated slurs, but human rights scholars like me, opposition members, legal watchdogs, really, we see this as a textbook case of SLAP, a SLAP suit, meaning a strategic lawsuit against public participation, which is designed to suppress oversight of election integrity. So the mechanics of this lawsuit show the vulnerabilities in Thailand's legal architecture, particularly when it comes to public interest reporting. So there are 2 sections. Section 326 and 328 of the Thai Criminal Code, alongside the Computer Crimes Act, where defamation remains a criminal offense, which is punished by criminal prison sentences rather than just civil financial penalties or damages. So, unlike standard civil litigation, when you have criminal defamation, it enables the complainants to initiate police proceedings across various provincial jurisdictions. So, 329 of the Criminal Code provides a fair exception for fair comments made in good faith, particularly in matters of public interest. But the problem is that this defense is rarely evaluated at the very early stages, which is the pre-trial stage, which allows for political figures to use the criminal process as a weapon of attrition. The underlying controversy about this stems from the architecture of the Senate election itself, which was a very complex, multi-tiered peer voting system, where you had 40,000 candidates that were selected winners among themselves across occupational groups at the district, the provincial, and the national levels. But investigations that were conducted by the Election Commission, the Department of Special Investigation, or DSI, recommended charges against like 230 or so individuals, including 138 sitting senators and 91 political organizers. This was for election fraud, for vote buying, and for organized block voting. So iLaw, in its research, it compiled public candidate registries, voting patterns. It submitted insider testimonies suggesting that senior Bumjai Thai officials were not only actively coordinating slates, but they were manipulating, that by filing criminal charges rather than presenting, say, a public rebuttal or awaiting a judicial resolution, the executive branch under Anutin moved to penalize the way civic actors who aggregated and published these interests, these findings that are in the public interest. So they're really moving on iLaw for doing what is really their job. This legal battle is important not just because it's a problem in Thailand. Obviously, these SLAP suits have been a really, really big problem for many, many years. And this lawfare we speak of in Southeast Asia is a common problem. But the legal battle comes at the same time that Thailand is hoping to join the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. So, a few years ago, Thailand submitted the initial memorandum, which the OECD launched in-depth technical discussions with Thailand across a dozen or so, 24 or so policy committees. And the Prime Minister and his cabinet have explicitly framed OECD membership by 2028 as an indispensable national economic imperative. As you know, Thailand is the sick man of Asia, and everything that the executive office does is to sort of facilitate Thailand's movement out of the middle income country trap. And the OECD would be one of those mechanisms because they want to attract high value foreign direct investment and to upgrade Thailand's somewhat archaic regulatory framework. But if the ascension to the OECD is important, we have to understand also, and I think the OECD would be very interested in this, what is Thailand's commitment to democratic governance, to the rule of law, and particularly civil liberties? So to achieve full ascension to the OECD, candidate countries have to go through evaluations across committees, and some of them are the public governance committees or the working group on bribery. The OECD guidelines and public policy think tanks, such as the National Economic and Social Development Council, they mandate that candidate states establish a predictable rule of law, have anti-corruption policies on hand, and they have an unhindered civic space where public integrity can be audited without threat of retribution. And the OECD guidelines explicitly emphasize that public sector corruption and maintaining sort of institutional accountability are non-negotiables. But so when you've got leaders like Anutin who are employing these criminal defamation mechanisms to target groups like ILAW, it's biting the hand that you want to feed you. It's contradicting the very, very core governance principle that are in the OECD's public integrity framework. So this legal dispute casts a very, very bright light on Thailand's legislative shortcomings and, of course, its terrible SLAPP safeguards. Now, look, Thailand has enacted amendments to criminal procedure to allow courts to dismiss private criminal lawsuits that are brought in bad faith. That is a good development. And human rights monitors have reported that some of these have failed to filter out criminal protections for whistleblowers who are submitting evidence directly to state agencies like the National Anti-Corruption Commission. But these legal immunities do not extend to civil society organizations or journalists who publish findings to inform the public or the electorate. So observer bodies like ILAW, particularly those that track these gaps, are running into trouble. So the broader implications of Thailand failing the OECD governance tests are substantial. And economics is the big one, because Analysts say that Thailand's bottlenecks, which are the large informal economy, the concentration of market power among multinational corporations or Thai corporations, and huge compliance costs, regulatory compliance costs, are directly linked to very, very weak public oversight and a lack of clarity, transparency, and accountability from the executive. So, joining the OECD requires Thailand to demonstrate that its legal system is protecting the public interest, protecting whistleblowers, and preventing powerful people like Anutin or powerful patronage networks or political parties from capturing or seizing state institutions. So bizarre then that a high-profile criminal prosecution of an election watchdog by the head of the executive branch, I wonder what that signals to investors. I wonder what that signals to the OECD, to its evaluation teams. Where's the institutional transparency, right? Is that now subordinate? Is that now secondary to elite political preservation? Human rights monitoring organizations have categorized Thailand's civic space as very, very constrained. And look, I want to point out, though, that, the OECD has suggested that Thailand is sort of getting its act together with regard to slap suits. But I think through the date when this report was written a few years ago and now shows how far Thailand has to go. But the civic space is still very, very constrained. And there are so many restrictions on free expression. And, of course, the slap suits, the criminal statutes against political dissenters. You've got human rights activists that are rotting in prison as a result. So in the OECD Ascension framework, member states retain the full veto power over any other candidate's full admission. So Thailand not only has to account for or be accountable to its own electorate, but it has to be accountable to European Union delegates, the United States, Japan. And it has to confront input from civil society groups and legal monitors and maintain a kind of adherence to but human rights criteria during their interview processes. So it's so bizarre that executive actions that undermine this lawsuit against ILAW is so bizarre because it simply is out of alignment with OECD's full expectations. So look, the confrontation between Anutin and ILAW represents more than just one defamation dispute between a powerful political party and a small national NGO. It is a decisive case for Thailand's future direction. Thailand cannot credibly convince itself that it is a transparent, OECD-ready market economy while it maintains this aggressive lawfare kind of posture where there's an environment for criminalizing civic oversight. How the parliament, how the cabinet, how the judiciary will navigate this lawsuit will demonstrate to observers, international observers, whether Thailand is really prepared to adopt institutional standards that are worthy of the OECD and that are worthy of the standards of a developed, advanced democracy. I think this case is a bad news, very bad news for Thailand's candidacy. And Anutin really has shot himself in the foot with this case. You let me know what you think. All right, that's it for this episode. Let me know what you think in the comments. See you next time.